1. Russian offensive actions near Avdiivka seem to demonstrate the ability of these forces to adapt and learn from previous experiences on the battlefield in Ukraine. Attacks in this region began after an initial bombardment on October 10th, and subsequent footage from October 11th confirms Russian troop movements in surrounding areas such as Severny, Steppe, and Krasnohorivka. The Ukrainian General Staff reports that up to 3 Russian battalions, supported by tanks and armored vehicles, have intensified their operations in this area. Staff spokesman Andriy Kovavlev indicates that these battalions belong to 3 brigades of the 8th Combined Armed Forces Army of the Southern Military District. Russian sources boast about progress in this field and present tactical adaptations. One artillery battalion commander points to the great importance of counter-battery warfare, while another source emphasizes the effectiveness of artillery preparations and coordination between units. Interestingly, Russian sources have previously highlighted such adaptations as assets in defense against Ukrainian counteroffensive actions. Most of the Russian forces involved in the fighting probably belong to the 1st Corps of the Donetsk People's Republic Army, mainly controlled by the Russian 8th Army. DNR forces face command, discipline, and training problems that are compounded by difficulties integrating with regular Russian forces. Despite this, reports indicate that communication in these units has improved. However, it is unclear whether these tactical adjustments will translate into greater operational success. Geolocation materials suggest that Russian gains are concentrated in certain areas but have not completed the encirclement of Avdiivka. Additionally, Russian forces are likely attacking Avdiivka to divert the attention of Ukrainian forces from other regions. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces are conducting counter-offensive operations in other areas, such as Bakhmut and the western Zaporizhia Oblast. According to reports from October 11, they are successful in these regions. On October 11, Rear Admiral Ildar Akhmerov, deputy commander of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, honored the soldiers of the 810th Marine Brigade for successfully defending against Ukrainian attacks. This act of appreciation came less than a week after Sergei Shoigu, Russia's defense minister, hailed the brigade's defensive efforts as a success, especially in the Robotyne area. However, Lieutenant General Kirill Budanov, head of the main directorate of military intelligence of Ukraine, denied these claims, stating on September 22nd that Ukrainian forces had completely defeated the 810th Marine Brigade. According to Budanov, the Russian command decided to withdraw this brigade from the western Zaporozhye region. An interesting observation was shared by a Russian mill blogger on October 5th, pointing out that certain elements of the 810th Marine Brigade may have been moved towards Kherson, which suggests the possibility of its reorganization or reconstruction. Moreover, there was no broad discussion about the brigade's activities in the main Russian media from the beginning of September to mid-September. The Russian Ministry of National Defense seems to be focusing on promoting a positive image of famous individuals. On October 11, Russian forces carried out offensive operations near Kupyansk. Information from Russian sources shows that units of the Russian 6th Combined Army and the 1st Tank Army from the Western Military District carried out attacks near the towns of Synkivka, Ivanivka, and Kyiv. A prominent Russian military blogger reported that Russian forces attacked an area along the railway line near Lyman, Pershi, heading towards Synkivka. He also added that attacks in the region were hampered by numerous Ukrainian minefields. According to a Ukrainian military expert, units from the Russian 25th Motorized Rifle Brigade and 47th Armored Division carried out attacks in the vicinity of Synkivka, Yahidne and Ivanivka. The Ukrainian General Staff confirmed that the attacks in the Synkovka and Ivanivka areas were ineffective. Captain Ilya Yevlash, representing the Ukrainian Eastern Group of Forces, reported that 30 attacks were carried out in the Kupyansk and Lyman areas that day. On the same day, Russian forces carried out offensive operations on the World-Kreminna line. Russian sources report that troops, including units from the newly formed 25th Combined Army, have moved to the Makiivka and Nevsky areas. The Ukrainian General Staff indicated that Ukrainian forces continue to prevent Russian advances in the Makiivka and Dubrova areas. However, the Russian Ministry of Defense reported that on October 11th, Ukrainian forces carried out ineffective attacks along the Kupyansk-Svatovo-Kreminna line, especially in the vicinity of Synkovka, Ivanivka. On October 12th, Ukraine reported shooting down 28 Russian drones overnight. As a result of the attacks, facilities in the port of Odessa and private houses were damaged, and one woman was injured. The Ukrainian Air Force reported that of the 33 Shahed drones launched from Russia, 28 were successfully neutralized. These unmanned aerial vehicles were heading in different directions, which resulted in air defense operations in the territory of at least 6 regions of Ukraine. At the same time, the defense of the south of the country reported drone attacks on port infrastructure along the Danube River. These machines flew various routes trying to avoid Ukrainian defense systems. 4 drones were destroyed in the Mykolaiv Oblast and 10 in the Odessa Oblast. Oleg Kuiper, the governor of Odessa, reported damage in the Odessa port and the Izmail residential district in a message on Telegram. As a result of the attack, one elderly woman suffered burns and is currently in hospital. After Russia withdrew from a deal regulating the safe transportation of grain through the Black Sea in July, it stepped up attacks on Ukraine's southern ports. Kiev also warns against Moscow's renewed attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. This indicates a continuation of the systematic attacks of the previous year, which left many people without heating and water during the coldest months. Defense Express Consulting Group from Ukraine reports that Russia launched over 500 Shahed drones in September, which is the monthly maximum. The Prime Minister of Ukraine, Denis Shmyhal, in his speech during the Forum of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund in Marrakesh, Morocco on October 11 via online communication, revealed that Ukraine in 2024 will need financial support in the amount of approximately $42 billion. This is due to the threat of a large budget deficit, which, as forecasted, may reach 21% of the country's gross domestic product. Shmyhal emphasized the need to obtain help from international partners. This support is intended to help the Ukrainian government implement key social obligations, such as the payment of pensions, salaries, and support for people whose property has been damaged as a result of military operations conducted by Russia. The Prime Minister noted that most of the country's tax revenues are currently directed to financing defense and military activities. Janet Yellen, Secretary of the Treasury of the United States, also participating in the meeting, praised Ukraine's economic activities, emphasizing that the country, despite difficult conditions, managed to maintain a coherent economic policy and achieve stable results. She also added that the international community should continue to provide Ukraine with significant. On October 11, Russian forces carried out offensive operations near Kupyansk. Information from Russian sources shows that units of the Russian 6th Combined Army and the 1st Tank Army from the Western Military District carried out attacks near the towns of Synkivka, Ivanivka, and Kyiv. A prominent Russian military blogger reported that Russian forces attacked an area along the railway line near Lyman, heading towards Synkivka. He also added that attacks in the region were hampered by numerous Ukrainian minefields. According to a Ukrainian military expert, units from the Russian 25th Motorized Rifle Brigade and Armored Division carried out attacks in the vicinity of Synkivka, Yahidne, and Ivanivka. The Ukrainian General Staff confirmed that the attacks in the Synkovka and Ivanivka areas were ineffective. Captain Ilya Yevlash, representing the Ukrainian Eastern Group of Forces, reported that 30 attacks were carried out in the Kupyansk and Lyman areas that day. On the same day, Russian forces carried out offensive operations on the World-Kreminna line. Russian sources informed that troops, including units from the newly formed Combined Army, have moved to the area of Makiivka and Nevsky. On October 12th, as reported by the Ukrainian National Police on its Facebook page, a man entered a business center in the Solomansk district of the country's capital, Kiev. The attacker opened fire and tried to take over the building. However, the Rapid Operational Response Unit, the Ukrainian equivalent of SWAT, responded quickly, entering into negotiations which ended in success and the capitulation of the attacker. Fortunately, no one was injured in this incident. Although the national police played an important role in defending Ukraine against a full-scale Russian incursion, especially in the initial stages of the threat to Kiev, their standard duties were not omitted. Russian attacks on key infrastructure during the winter of 2022 and 2023 led to numerous power outages. As a result, there was a significant increase in the number of road accidents, both involving vehicles and pedestrians. While the midnight curfew has contributed to a drop in thefts and other property crimes, indoor isolation has resulted in an increase in crimes related to domestic violence, according to Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. Police officers also actively participate in activities related to the conflict, identifying potential informers and people carrying out sabotage activities.